He's away. Yeah, the public hearing. That is who I assumed we'd get a few. Yeah, they said just to hold on for a second. Just waiting for the green light from the production team over there. It's always on, just assume that. All right, we'll call the regular meeting of council to order. And before we adjourn and go into, or recess and go into the public hearing, we have a couple of presentations to make. First one is to Mrs. Della Robertson. So on behalf, I'm going to read right from the plaque we have here. On behalf of the residents of Cochrane, we would like to acknowledge you for spearheading key initiatives supporting seniors and the community. You have tirelessly advocated for issues important to seniors such as transportation, a universal health plan, and elder abuse awareness. Your dedication to service led to the creation of a nonprofit society to manage the development of a hospice for Cochrane. We are extremely proud of your achievements and are grateful for your exemplary dedication, which has made Cochrane a better place to live. Thank you. So on behalf of, yes, let's do some applause. You would come forward, and I think all of council, if we could just come around and we'll get a nice photo op of the certificate of appreciation. Nice frame. Right in the middle.
Nobody gets an award for volunteerism without a whole bunch of wonderful people that they work with. And some of them are here tonight, and I want to acknowledge them. So if you'd stand up when I say your name, then these people can see who you are and know that you're behind all of the good work. And we have Cindy Atticus, absolutely wonderful. James Farnsworth, could you please stand up? here at SCSS, and they're great support to volunteerism. And I'd also like to thank you, Susan, for building volunteerism into the fabric of Cochrane. It is, without a doubt, a community that has just got fantastic volunteers and lots of them. So thank you.
Congratulations, you've done awesome work, Ella. We're very proud of you and putting us on the map again.
You started it all. You did a good job. There are also 4 other names I want to mention of volunteers who may not have been recognized, but I want them to go on, want their names on record. Terry Haxton's been a superb volunteer for this town for years. Linda Durkach is now chairing the Hospice Society, and I know the amount of work that is because I chaired it for a year or more, and she's doing a fantastic job. Jane White has been a volunteer for years, and so has Jenny Hutchinson. And it's always risky to name names, but because you always forget someone, but there are hundreds of volunteers in Cochrane, and I want to thank them all.
This is about you, Doug.
No.
So we might as well stay here. We might as well just stay out. Maybe people can't hear us, but we got one more presentation I can read from you. And this is to Case. Marina, you're here? Are you going to come forward? We're kind of going off script here, so the people at home will just have to wing it with us. So you brought someone with you?
She's our secretary.
So we are honoring the 50th anniversary of the Cochrane Labor Day Parade. And Case has put it on for a few years now.
8 years.
8 years, thank you. And so for everything you do, everything you've done, and everything you're going to do for our community, this is our brand. So this is one of the items that we present. It's kind of like the highest honor that we give. So
Thank you so much.
So thank you for all that you've done. All right.
Say a few words because
You have a minute 10.
I have a minute. That's going to be hard. It will be right then. Of course, the parade has been going on for 50 years, but we have organized it for such a small sliver of time. There's so many organizations and groups before us that are also deserving of this, and we need to recognize them because we're just continuing the legacy. That's all we're doing. And also all of the gracious and wonderful sponsors that Cochrane has. We are so fortunate to have these businesses come forward and help organizers to put on events like this, and we're eternally grateful for that. And lastly, but certainly not least, all of the volunteers. I did a really quick calculation of how many volunteers in the past 50 years, and it equals to over 2,000.
Wow.
So that's amazing. On behalf of everybody who's ever organized this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's our presentations for this evening. Yeah. Okay. Back to business. So we will recess the regular meeting of council and open the public hearing, which tonight is on annexation in Rocky View County. Mr. Heinman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening to conduct the non-statutory public hearing for the proposed annexation with Rocky View County. If I just give me a moment, I'll get this set up. Just one moment. I've got a blank screen.
There we go.
Okay. So as I mentioned, here for the non-statutory public hearing for the proposed annexation. In terms of the presentation this evening, what I wanted to first do was do a little housekeeping, explain the purpose of the non-statutory public hearing, a little bit about the proposed annexation itself and why it is somewhat unique, give a little bit of background, how we got here, talk about the negotiation for the proposal where we have reached agreement with Rocky View County, provide a summary of the community engagement and the response received, and then give you our recommendation. And of course, the recommendation this evening is to receive public input from people who wish to provide you their input on this proposal. That is the true intent of the non-statutory public hearing. It is not a requirement of the annexation process, yet the annexation negotiation committee from both Rocky View County and the town determined that it would be suitable to host this public hearing this evening to provide an opportunity for residents and affected stakeholders to provide their input before council makes a final decision. So that's one of the important items that I wanted to share with you. I did want to obviously share the advertising that I showed to you on September 24th. So this has been advertised in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. Was advertised in the paper as well as on our website. We did have a notification that was sent out, so this goes above and beyond what we traditionally do. So this has gone out to the Rocky View residents in the affected area. So this is a non-statutory public hearing notice. It speaks about the hearing this evening, but also the hearing that will be taking place on October 23rd at Rocky View County, because their council will also be hearing a presentation from my counterpart from Rocky View County, who is Matthew Wilson, who is part of the Annexation Negotiation Committee. Here's a summary of the properties outside of town that in Rocky View County that were provided this notification. So an opportunity that those residents were also aware of this and had the opportunity to come and speak to council. So with respect to the annexation itself, there are two parcels. It comprises approximately 200 acres. There's a quarter section immediately north of Heritage Hills along Horse Creek Road. It's 158.56 acres. And then there is a second parcel known as Area B. It is a 40-acre parcel immediately north of Sunset. So one of the things that I wanted to point out before we proceed with this is that it's a bit of a unique annexation. So annexation is traditionally growth-based. So communities like Cochrane would try and put additional lands within their boundaries to accommodate future growth. But this is not the case in this one. It's actually based on overcoming some of the technical challenges associated with access to the Sunset Ridge community. And the second aspect is opportunity. And I'll get into the opportunity that arose when I speak to how we got here. We intentionally limited this annexation to two properties comprised of the 200 acres because we didn't want to annex large parcels of land to accommodate future growth. We have enough land within our current boundaries to accommodate growth. We've done the growth management strategy, but based on this unique opportunity for some of the recreational opportunities, as well as the overcoming some of the access challenges to Sunset, we felt that this annexation was appropriate. And through the annexation agreement that's been signed between the two jurisdictions, we have an agreement to revisit future annexation 1 year after this annexation is complete. So what that means is if there are residents who are interested in having their lands come into the boundary, there will be future discussions on that and future opportunities. Of course, we're going through the Calgary Metropolitan Region Board as well in those discussions. So there's a lot of things that changing right now. So we wanted to limit this annexation specifically to these two properties. So in terms of how did we get here, where does this unique opportunity come from? 2005, Rocky View Schools purchased the quarter section immediately north of Heritage Hills, comprised of 158 acres. However, when they purchased this property, they clarified that they'd only need 25 to 30 acres for their future high school site. We felt this was a great opportunity to have a future high school site in such close proximity to Cochrane. However, it's outside of our boundary. They wanted it serviced by the town. As we don't service things outside of our boundary, we had to consider annexation. But the second part of it is they approached us regarding the balance of the property. They wanted to see if we wanted to purchase the balance of the property. There are limited opportunities because of the gas plant that is located to the northeast of this site and the emergency management zone that's affected. So there is no opportunity for residential development on these properties, but there is an opportunity for recreational lands. So we determined that if we were going to have a serviced high school site and to pursue recreational opportunities on these properties, that it would be best to have these lands within our boundary. So we started the annexation discussions with Rocky View County at that time. So throughout 2016, we had several discussions on the proposed annexation. Subsequently that winter, Council directed administration to prepare a notice of annexation, as well as establish an annexation negotiation committee. That spring, there were preliminary meetings. However, it did not proceed because we were ready to proceed to with the public engagement in the fall, the summer of 2017. However, due to the pending election and public engagement is not really suitable over the summer months, we felt it would be best to wait. That waiting was actually a blessing in disguise because there were additional lands when this council was elected. A new issue emerged, and that was in Sunset Ridge and the access to that community. So there was a proposal to have an interim access within the current boundaries of the town. However, our neighbors, being Rocky View County, expressed some concerns with that proposed interim access, as well as the landowner to the north. If you look at the Sunset Ridge Stage 2 area structure plan that was completed in 2012, it also anticipated that this 40-acre parcel would eventually be within the town's boundary. That had not occurred to date, so this was perfect timing to revisit this, and Council directed administration to amend the notice of annexation to include these two properties. So it was limited earlier this year to those two properties, and we subsequently established our annexation negotiation committee. We met with Rocky View on April 18th, and at that point reached an agreement in principle on the proposed annexation. This agreement was subsequently presented to both Town of Cochrane and Rocky View Council on May 14th and May 22nd, where both councils directed administration to proceed with public engagement and report back to council. So the next portion that I'd like to really talk about and highlight is the community engagement that's gone into this. So on June 27th, there was the Let's Talk Cochrane barbecue. 115 people attended. We had very positive feedback on the proposal. We also put this Cochrane North annexation on the town's website in May of 2018. We had poster boards, which I'll show you here shortly, that were placed at the office here at the Ranch House, as well as at the Visitor Information Center. I'd like to just give about the Visitor Information Center a little bit of a plug. They have had 10,000 people through the Visitor Information Center this year. So a lot of people, granted they're visitors, would have seen this information. And then of course, in terms of public and community engagement, there's the non-statutory public hearing this evening. So there's been plenty of opportunity to get information on this proposal. So here's some of the information I just wanted to highlight. Of course, our communications department did an exceptional job with the Let's Talk Cochrane barbecue, which was a tremendous success. There's the board that was in the Visitor Information Center. All that information was also available online. If you look at the bottom of the screen, that's our Let's Talk Cochrane page, where there's a specific portion of the website which is dedicated to this project, which provided all the information for residents to provide submissions if they had questions, and for the contact information. And then subsequently, here's the poster boards that have been up throughout the administration building as well as down at the Visitor Information Center. So there has been a lot of work's gone into this. We also have letters of support from Rocky View Schools, who are the owners of the quarter section in off Horse Creek Road. The Groveland property, which is the 40-acre parcel, we also have a letter of support from those landowners. Melcor is the adjacent landowner and the developer of Sunset Ridge. They are a key stakeholder and adjacent landowner, and they have provided their letter of support. Interpipeline is the owner of the gas plant that is northeast of this site, and they have also provided their letter of support for the proposal. And today we received confirmation from Alberta Transportation. So we have done our due diligence. We feel that the annexation proposal is complete, and our next steps would be to host this non-statutory public hearing this evening, receive input from residents and affected stakeholders, and that is our recommendation. So we are recommending option 1, that council receive and consider all the comments presented during the non-statutory public hearing regarding the proposed annexation from Rocky View County. Concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you for your presentation. Council, any questions before we get to the public? Nope. All right, thank you. Go to the speakers list. First on the list is Dana and Melanie Boothby.
I'm sorry, I just was checking in.
Okay,
I don't need to speak, I'm just here for information.
so you're present?
Right?
Yeah, we're taking roll call. Ann McKendrick. McNabb? Yep.
I thought that was a sign-in sheet too.
Okay, that's okay. It happens a lot. Ms. Judy Stewart. Welcome, Judy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just happened to be here on another matter and saw it was at the annexation proposal. And I'd like to speak against annexation of Area A. I believe that's the land north of Heritage Hills.
Yep.
In 2003, 2004, we entered into extensive negotiations with Rocky View County for the annexation of that particular parcel of land, as you know, Mayor Chinung. And at the time, we had significant discussions with the gas plant about the appropriateness of that land for any residential development or use that might introduce children or people who would be on that land during the day, or especially vulnerable people such as high school students. At the time, the gas plant people who talked to us extensively recommended against any kind of development that would introduce vulnerable people into that area, given that it is a gas plant. My second objection is that we do not have sufficient water to have any more land annexed into the town of Cochrane at this time. Until we get another water license, it seems to me rather inappropriate to have any more development that might be a high water user anywhere. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we would be looking at further annexation. We just heard from our professionals that we have sufficient land for accommodating growth in the immediate future. And as well, Rocky View County has quite a history of annexing or buying inappropriate parcels for high schools. They've ensured in the past that the town of Cochrane has been on the hook for several parcels. For example, the school site just below Glen Eagles was totally inappropriate location and totally inappropriate geotechnically for a school. Just because Rockview wants land, Rockview School Board, doesn't necessarily mean the town of Cochrane should provide a parcel if it's in an inappropriate location, in my view. And especially since we don't have servicing on that land right now, and we don't have any other plans except for commercial development. And right now we have plenty of land for that in the Burncoal properties. So that's my personal opinion, and I thought since I'm here, I'm going to register my objection. The other parcel, I understand why you're annexing it, and I have no objection.
Okay,
Thank you.
just before you leave, we might have a question. Councillor Wilson, and thank you for exercising your voice tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, hi Judy. I was just hoping you could expand on the vulnerable people part of that argument. That's the first time I've heard that argument is
I'm having trouble hearing
vulnerable
that.
people on that area A. We'd talked to the gas plant about having vulnerable people such as high school students on that property. What are the concerns there? I haven't heard that before.
Did they say they were in favor of it? The gas plant people?
What are your concerns about vulnerable people being on that?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable,
Okay.
yes. Please.
The gas plant has an emergency preparedness plan, just like every institution does. But if you have people like children or senior citizens, for example, or any group of people who may be vulnerable to emissions from the gas plant should there be an emergency, they were of the view that they didn't want them in that proximity. It was too close. In 2003, 2004, they were in favor of this council and Rockview Council having a cooperative development on those lands, such as big box stores. So people would be coming and going, but you wouldn't have anyone housed on the site for like 8 hours a day or something like that. So I'm not sure what the town has in mind for the rest of that 158 acre parcel, but a high school, in my view, is a totally inappropriate use that close to the gas plant, because the only thing we do know right now in our complex systems is that everything's unpredictable. Anything could happen at any time. And I don't know that we have an appropriate emergency plan for those lands in place at the town level, Rockview County level. I don't know that we do. And until we do, I think we shouldn't be annexing that property for a high school in particular. They have left us on the hook, Rockview School Board, many times for inappropriate choice of lands. They buy up the land cheap, and then they work with the town to try and get it serviced. And if you got, we had a high school up at Bow Valley there for years. I don't know if you had to go there, out in the middle of nowhere with no water and sewer. We've had several situations like that. So it's my personal opinion, and I just thought I'd come and share my thoughts.
Thank you very much for
listening to
sharing.
me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Liz Cole?
I'm here with you on the other matter.
Oh,
Also thought it was a sign-in.
we need a sign-in sheet from now on, and a public hearing sheet. Is there anyone else? That's the end of the, Mr. Boothby? Yeah?
Maybe I will speak here.
Sure. Well, you're on the list.
All right. Good evening, council. My name is Dana Boothby, and I will speak to the annexation. I do own the land just on the north side of Area B. I'm speaking on behalf of Boothby Ranches on this, and I would just like to put my notice in. I do support the annexation of parcel A and B. So you can put me on record in support. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that's not on the list in the gallery? Yep. Please come forward, state your name, and I think I know who you are. We've met.
Will McNabb, here with McKendrick Ranches. We own the property that's just southwest of the Section A. Basically, we support both the annexation processes for the two parcels, and we're interested in the next part of the annexation process if it comes back in a year after this one completes.
So the 1 year, I think Mr. Hyman talked about the 1 year trigger after this one's complete?
Yes,
That's
sir.
the one you're referring to?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, thank you very much, guys.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else in the gallery? Nope. Staff have any closing remarks? you have a question, sir?
Just for council's benefit, to some of the comments that were provided, I can just clarify Interpipeline, their support for this proposal. They made it clear in their correspondence that the building for the high school shall not be developed within the 1 kilometer emergency response zone. So there is a portion of this quarter section that is outside of the emergency response zone. So that is the intent for the high school to be developed within that site. The second portion that they also put, that we've had several discussions with them, is that there's no residential or overnight uses on the quarter section. So there's no intent from administration's point of view to have any residential uses or overnight accommodation on these properties. They are really intended to be recreational. So potentially soccer fields, rugby fields. You've had a number of groups come to speak to you this year who are looking for opportunities for outdoor recreation. OLAG is looking for dog parks in the future. So this is really that opportunity that I spoke of in my presentation. They also clarified that all egress should be away from the extraction plant. So any of those roads that really are developed and provide access, that there are quick ways for people to leave that emergency management zone in the case of an emergency. So I just wanted to clarify that, that the high school or proposed high school is outside of the emergency response zone. And then secondly is that administration has no plans for residential or overnight accommodation in this area.
All right, thanks for that. I see we have some questions. Councillor McFadden?
Yes, thank you. A question for Mr. Hyman. Can you follow up and expand on the perceived limitations with the water licenses and how to, the argument proceeding with this against the water license argument?
Through the chair to Councillor McFadden, I think with the quarter section, again, we don't have any intent to use any of that water license with the exception of the high school to support development on this site. We've had discussions through the annexation with Rocky View County. As a portion of this is the stormwater that's coming from Cochrane Lakes, is the opportunity, if there are recreational fields, is to use stormwater for irrigation purposes on those fields. The only portion that is actually going to be residential development is a portion of the 40 acres that is in Area B, which is near Mr. Boothby's property and near just north of Sunset Ridge. So again, only a small portion of this would be subject to utilizing that water license. And we understand the restrictions. Mr. Deans and myself work very closely together and don't see this as a significant burden on our water license.
Thank you very much.
Council, any other questions for administration? No, I just have one. Do you have that, and it's around the emergency preparedness plan that Ms. Stewart talked about. The town doesn't have anything like that in place, and do we, or what is the emergency? This may be a general question to anyone on the admin team about in the event of a disaster. I mean, we just saw one in, it was New Brunswick on the weekend. What would be our community's, it's more along fire and EMS, and I think, Mr. Devanna, you've been working on that plan, have you not? Would that cover this piece of property if annexed?
Yeah, we do have an emergency management plan. We are updating the plan, and it does take into consideration the gas plant in any event there, and they also have an emergency plan. And our fire department, our police department are well aware of their plans.
Okay. And it was a 1 kilometer radius around the gas plant. Okay. And then second question, I don't know, we're not disclosing all the details of the agreement at this time until the agreement is passed, correct? That's correct. Yep. Can you talk about the discussions about the initial planned use of, was that brought up during the discussions?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, the planned use of the quarters.
Formerly council in '04 when we annexed.
Oh, about Area
N.
B?
Well, Area A now.
Yes.
right? It was called Area B then, which
Yes.
we chuckled about quite a bit, or I did. This piece was discussed as a joint venture between the two councils or municipalities at that time to be I believe it was an industrial use.
That is correct. Following the 2004 annexation, it was anticipated that, as Mrs. Stewart indicated, that Rocky View County and the town would collaborate on a industrial development within that area, which would meet the principles that the interpipeline spoke to, about no overnight, no vulnerable residents within that area.
So it was talked about, it was discussed, and ultimately this agreement that's before us tonight is what the outcome of those discussions are.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No? I guess we'll close the public hearing then. Move into our regular meeting. Actually, we're going to take a 2-minute break. 2-minute break to allow our production team to catch up and re-stream another meeting, which, yeah. So 2-minute break.